Welcome, everybody, to the Workday Reimagined podcast. Welcome back to the Workday Intelligence segment. My name is Brandon Britton. I am the VP of AI and Analytics at Okorio. We're super excited for this next edition. This is a very, very special edition of the Workday Intelligence podcast. We are actually going to be hands-on and show you how to set up your agent system of record, or ASOR. We're also going to show you how to configure an agent, your payroll agent specifically, live here in this podcast. So get ready. It's going to be a really good one. Let me introduce my colleague, Hank. Hank, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, yeah, I'm Hank Halverson. I'm a senior payroll consultant here at Okorio, but I also handle a lot of the Workday agent implementations, use cases, and solutions. So a little bit of everything. I have experience with payroll for the US and UK and Australia, which is a bit with the agents as it is often international. Certainly so.
Also, thanks, Hank. Hank's underselling himself. He's also been doing some awesome payroll, not only payroll work, but payroll agent work with payroll teams. We've been doing some live deployments, learning a lot about where the agents really shine, and what's important to consider when you're rolling these things out. So before we dive in, I just want to remind everybody, we at Okorio are a full stack Workday partner. We do all things HCM, fins, adaptive. And in the last year, we've stood up a dedicated AI and analytics practice, which is my group, where we focus on leveraging the data that's inside of your Workday to benefit your business. And there's really two ways to think about that. There's the data that's inside of Workday, and recently there's the agents that are inside of Workday. And then there's the how do you leverage that data for outside of Workday. So we're going to save that topic for another podcast. And this is when you want to think about things like the data cloud, and maybe external agents that you're considering, like Claude or Copilot, or ChatGPT, and how do those factor in to Workday's agent and agentic strategy. Same with Sauna and Sauna Enterprise, etc. So, like I said, we'll save that for another podcast. Right now, we're focusing on the inside of Workday component. A couple of things before we jump in. Hank, what are you seeing as far as these deployments? What are folks excited about, not excited about, concerned about? What questions have you heard from folks you've been talking to?
Yeah, and I see concerns that pop up a lot are concerns around the accuracy, the security, and the usability of the agents as far as their skills and their use case scenarios. Um, yeah.
Yeah, no, agreed. And we'll talk a little bit about the security piece when we configure usability as well. That's certainly a topic that comes up as far as how do you roll this out? Like, these agents can be very powerful. Some of these are what we would call departmental agents, like payroll, for example. Payroll is intended to be largely used by the payroll organization or team, with some management in there as well. But the intent there is not to necessarily roll out the payroll agent to your entire enterprise. So you can imagine that rollout would be a little bit different than, say, the self-service agent. Now, the self-service agent is going to be a broader rollout. And other agents, like, the planning agent, which generally focuses on adaptive planning, and like that would be primarily focused in the FP&A team, right? So all of these things are considerations when you're putting together your agent strategy and your rollout strategy. The one thing that we failed to mention that keeps coming up is flex credits. So everyone is talking about flex credits. Obviously, Workday rolled out their flex credit consumption model last year. If you're watching this, you've probably heard of them, or the UMSA contract. We do want to talk a little bit about that maybe towards the end of the discussion here. And we certainly can. But yeah, I don't want to leave that one off the table as well. So, Hank, should we just get started? Should we just show them what it's all about?
Yeah, we can jump right into it here.
All right, let's jump in. I'm going to let you share your screen, and then just kind of talk us through what you're doing here. And I might interrupt you with some questions, so apologies in advance.
Right. Yeah, I'll go ahead and share here, and we'll be jumping into one of our GMS tenants, just a dev tenant, to set this up and configure. I'm currently signing as loading the meal. We're going to be using everything based on HR and admin for today. It's kind of neat how the agents store the security. There's kind of two ways to use security. There's the security of who can edit and see agents analytics at a high level for configuration and activation. And then there's the user security of who can use which agents and what portions of which agents. So we'll be open at both of those today, but obviously we'll start off with the setup here. All right. So the first part of the setup is enabling the functional area for the agents. So for that, we're going to maintain functional area.
Hank, while you're doing that, one thing I failed to mention, and maybe we'll do this later, but when you sign your UMSA, these things will appear or happen in your tenant relatively immediately. So that if your Workday rep has not been pressing you for the UMSA, or maybe you're already on the UMSA, you will have access to everything that Hank is walking you through right now. So first step, get the UMSA executed, then you will instantly have, or relatively instantly have access to everything we're walking you through here today. With regards to the agent system of record, the individual agents themselves, as Hank will show you, are a little bit more nuanced. So sorry, Hank, wanted to get that complex.
Yeah, you're good. And just to supplement that, the UMSA also comes with a starting pool of flex credits that you can use, and all automatically rolls in new agent updates as agents come. You just have to enable it at the highest level here of the functional areas to get that going within your tenants. So yeah, the first step here is to maintain functional area. I went in and found the agent system of record. This is going to be what is going to be the highest level. This will be what we do to set up the security for who can manage, view analytics, activate, deactivate, all of that fun stuff at a high level is done through the agent system of record. So enabling that is the first step. Okay. And then done. And then from there, we have to activate the pending security policy changes. So, right. And so with this functional area, there's the following domains. These domains we'll get into a little bit, but you can segment security around each domains because they use certain security groups to only have access to certain portions of this domain, even at a high level. All right. So that's really the big step there. So that's turning it on in your system. From there, we want to go and start configuring the security a little bit. So for that, I'm going to do domain security policy for functional area. And our functional area we're going to use is BDA, so we're going to sort of agent system of that. All right. So here's those domains that we see within the functional area that we just turned on. Agent compliance is going to be all of the sensitive information that the agent gets to see and use. I'm using the HR admin as this, because Logan McNeil is the HR admin. I've seen clients also use certain security groups for like tenant security, or HR admin is another popular one that I see people enable for this as well. But you're going to want to make sure whoever's going to be the security group within your system that manages the agents from a high level are going to have access to view and modify each of these different domains. So I already have that set up here for us today. So as long as these are each active and have our target security groups in either view and modify, then we are able to go from this step. After this, we'd have to again enable our tenant security policy changes. Because I'd already have it set up, I'm not going to activate that, but you might if you're following along in this tenant. From there, we can go to maintaining permissions for security group. And this is just a way to check our previous configurations against different security groups. This is valuable if you're using multiple security groups for different aspects of our ASOR. So I'm just going to do the HR admin here. Here shows all of the HR admin functional areas and security around those. If we look at the agent system on record until again here, we can see that we have view and modify for these 5 domains. Again, these are going to be the people that get to manage the agent and clients from a high level. View the agent management hub, which is where you enable and disable the agents. You can manage individual agents, and then you can also access reporting around agents. So that reporting will include insights such as who's using which agents and which skills. And you can even get as granular as what questions are they asking those agents. That can be good to identify with your organization, maybe weak points of communication, which can be helpful. So we want to make sure that our target security group has access to these 5 items. And from there, we're good to go to our agent management hub. All right, so this is our control center for all of our agents in Workday. We're going to be looking at just the payroll agent. However, Workday does have at least 7 agents as of now, but they're rapidly improving the skills and deployment of agents. So it always updates as long as you party that admin. This overview tab here will show you just a high level view on agent session. This session would be every time somebody opens up for like agent for usage. Below that, we have our total agent sessions in the last 30 days. And then we have unique users in the last 30 days. And then active agents. So this is a good one-stop shop for high level quick recap. They also have some quick tasks for configuring agents, activated agents, and generating input-output inputs. This input-output report is going to show you exactly what your workers were asking the agents and what the response was to each of those. Below that, we have our agent registry. This is going to show us all of our active and inactive agents that we have used. We've used the payroll agent in this tenant before, so it currently lives in the registry. But we also have all of our unregistered agents that we have not turned on in this tenant yet. There's 6 additional beyond the payroll agent. All good to explore. Some of them do have prerequisites that you'd have to kind of evaluate individually, but you're able to register them here by selecting a register button. The only one you can't register at the moment is the BP optimization agent. That's currently only available in production tenants. Which, a little bit of a note if you're following along your tenant, that you should be doing this in a non-production tenant through your first one. As far as flex credits go, which is the consumption currency of these agents, flex credits are not used in all non-production tenants. So you're completely able to set this up in your sandbox tenant, in your dev tenant, with no additional cost to you or your company, as long as you're signed up with the UNSA agreement. Once you move it to production, then it starts using flex credits, which can be monitored in both sandbox and production so that you can see how much usage is being used and where.
And one note on that, and I'll sort of safe harbor caveat this statement, but Workday is currently running a special program or incentive where they are not charging. Let me qualify and say, be sure to reach out to your Workday rep, get clarity on what I'm saying. I'm certainly not a representative of Workday, and I don't want to misstate the contracting. However, our understanding is Workday is running basically some free promotions for Flex credits, I believe until the end of August, where they're allowing you to use, I believe, the self-service agent, Sauna for Workday, and maybe some others like planning. Again, get clarity from your Workday rep, but they are off. They are, in addition to your entitlement that Hank mentioned, which is the free credits that you get with your UMSA. They are also giving just free usage until the end of August. So, and again, that's production only. So sorry, Hank, I just wanted to plug that in there real quick.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up because that is something I have seen clients miss before, and it's a great opportunity to trial your agents in your production tenant, just see how it goes. But yeah, so it's definitely make sure you're doing this in a non-production tenant initially just to get comfortable with it, and then you can move from there.
I guess, Hank, while you're on this page, and sorry I keep interrupting you, but while you're on this page, I think it's worth noting some of the other agents. So like Hank mentioned, there are, I believe, 7 GA agents available today in Workday, and there's about a dozen more that they're coming out with probably as soon as this year. But they all do different stuff, and they all have different skills. And when I talk about the rate card later, maybe that will make a little bit more sense. But not every agent may be applicable to your business. And I guess sort of vice versa. There's probably more agents that you know about might be applicable. So frontline agent does something entirely different than the planning agent. BP optimizes its own agent and sort of value prop, self-service, etc. There's also agents that have some other SKU prerequisites like the recruiting agent or the contract revenue agent. So again, these are things that Okorio, we're pretty well versed in. We want to talk through these, kind of the value props of each of these and what those entail, not only from the use case and the ROI and the flex credit consumption, but how you might consider rolling those out. And frankly, more importantly, what's required in your system to set up and configure so that these are operating as best as they can. So again, sorry, Hank, I keep interrupting.
No, these are good points.
Take away.
Yeah, and just to go a little bit deeper on the optimization of these agents, this tutorial is a very bare bones configuration. You can really get in the weeds with security and reporting on this. There's a lot of capabilities there. And I think a lot of times clients will miss those when you go independent or use it and forget about it for a year or two. And there's a little bit of scope change and security group changes. So definitely something to keep an eye on. And I think the agent management hub does a pretty good job of identifying all of that for you. But definitely
all things that Okorio wants to help you with. So that's a good call to action for everyone listening.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, once we register an agent, then it moves over to our agent registry or tiered. And you'll notice we have our agent. It's currently inactive. Just because it's in our registry doesn't mean it's active just yet. But it's there. And this payroll agent, all payroll agents have 4 skills that are out of the box. And we can look at those a little bit more in that thing. So I'm going to click into the payroll agent. And we get this overview of our agent. It's still currently inactive. To activate it, there's a little button right here for activate agent. You can select that and activate. It'll give you just a little bit of a warning and give you some information around flex credits, just so that you know what you're getting into. I'll go ahead and activate that. So now this agent is active in our tenant.
But this is still your dev tenant, so you can still activate it in dev, even though it kind of gives you the warning. There's really no risk of activating in your dev tenant. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's correct. It ignores you regardless of what kind of you're in. Right. Just be ready for that. Within our agent use here, we can go to our skills. I think the skills, it holds a lot of security value. This is where you can dictate which security groups can access which parts of this agent. So this agent has 4 skills. The one I like to start with is the core payroll data retrieval agent. This agent is going to be the prerequisite for the rest of the skills. And this skill is the prerequisite for the rest of the skills. This skill just allows the agent to go into your Workday payroll functional area and gather worker data, configuration data, and payroll result line data, which it can then distribute to the rest of the skills for various use cases. After that, we have our payroll data insights skill. This skill is going to be what looks at your payroll, and it can identify trends over the last pay period, over the year, over the quarter. It can identify anomalies. You can identify highs and lows. Anything movable in no conversation, we're more than able to use this skill for that. After that, we have our identified missing data and configuration. This is going to be looking at our tenant to see things like, do we have a period schedule set up for the next year? Do we have a FMLA configuration built out? Do our workers have direct deposit information and state and federal tax elections? Things like that can all be captured using this skill. And then this last one is the minimum wage rate analysis. I think this one's oftentimes overlooked, but there's a lot of value behind it. It looks at the minimum wage rate changes and how that will affect your company moving forward. So it's a little bit of a forecasting tool that you can use as legislation changes. And what's nice about that is Workday maintains all of these rates for you in Workday. It maintains the tax rates, it maintains minimum wage rates. So it already knows. It's just a matter of communicating that to you. And that's what gets spread bells in a very conversational and easy to understandable way.
It's a really good point, Hank, around, we didn't talk much about it. Maybe it's a bigger topic, but Workday will talk a lot about the context inside of Workday and why their agents are so good at what they do. And frankly, in sort of layman's terms, Workday effectively has built intelligent Workday agents or intellectualized or intellectual capitalized agents built within Workday. And the difference here is these agents understand not only your business, but how Workday works. So to put it another way, if you were to slap on Claude into Workday, which I don't recommend and I don't think would work, but if you were to try and replicate it quickly, it's not going to have that context. It's not going to have that understanding. It's certainly not going to have that nuance like Hank was mentioning around payroll, et cetera. So that's a really important distinction, but a nuanced distinction between these agents that exist within Workday as opposed to, an enterprise, sort of frontier model agent like a GPT or Claude or Copilot. So again, bigger topic to discuss on another day, but that's a really important distinction. Sorry.
Yeah, and Workday talks about that a lot. I know they were just talking about that recently around the out-of-the-box Workday agents versus a third-party agent. I agree. The Workday agent is a lot more native, and it's built for these use cases. So I agree. I recommend this. What's neat about these skills as well is that they will never give a worker information that they couldn't already see. So the security is inherited from the worker. So though a worker might be a payroll analyst and yet you use all of these skills, but they're not allowed to see company B's information or data, this agent won't provide that to them. So you can toggle who gets to use which skills, but then within those skills, the worker still holds their individual security of actions, which is just another way to modulate your security. Uh, all right. So these are our skills. From here, we can go to our analytics. Now, this is similar to that agent management hub overview page, but more so specific to this agent. So you can see uh, total interactions of the last 30 days. And then you can see agent sessions, but you can also see which skills are being used in this free business. That can be good insight for your company, knowing what has more of a heavy lift versus different skills we might not be using in this minute.
I think that also factors into obviously the flex credit rate card, which I'll talk to, but also the ROI that you're experiencing. So, not all these skills are necessarily created equal, and understanding, a payroll data insight, whether using that a lot or a little relative to everything else, or general data analysis and querying. Um, Understanding how your team is using that gives you a better sense of how to measure the ROI associated with these agents.
Right. Um, yeah, I have one more thing to show you, and then I think we can jump into maybe some demos. Not a pretty bad idea. But just to, I just want to show the IL report here. Just a quick use case there. I think there's a lot of value as well. You can select which engine we want to see, and then we can put in 650, or we could do this two today. Um, start the 26. And when we view this report, it will show you every question that's been asked by Glue, and what the answering was, which is a great way to see exactly where your credits are being used, and decide which skills you need and which ones you don't if you want to start limiting credit usage. It's a pretty neat. All right. So now that the agent is active within the tenant, the next step is you actually have to log out and log back in before you can reset with that agent. And then we go on log out.
So just to recap, while you're logging out and logging in. So in as a recap, we have set up agent system of record, or ASOR, and we've set up the payroll agent in about 20 minutes. Now it's in your dev tenant, but we wanted to show folks that it's fairly easy. It is a little nuanced, but it's fairly easy to do. And so we fully encourage people to get in here, turn it on, try some things out. Again, dev tenant, no flex credit usage, and check with your rep on the production special they're running now. But that's it. And Hank's gonna walk us through some demo and maybe talk to what it does well and how folks could take advantage of this now.
Definitely. So, once you log back in after configuration, up in the top right, you're going to have this agent chat button. From here, you can specify which agent. If you have multiple agents active, you can specify which agent you would like to use. We only have the payroll agent on, so that's the default right now. We can also expand it here to see all of these options here. So here we can ask it anything conversationally. And we can either run light reports here to see information fairly rarely.
Okay, so Hank, you're going to walk us through a short demo here. We've got the payroll agent up and running in our dev GMS tenant. So talk us through what you see some value out of here.
Yeah, definitely. So you can do general queries about anything payroll related, both worker data and configuration based. So I think an easy starting point is telling us what pay groups we have in Infinite. So what pay groups do we had this 10? Now this is an easy one that you can obviously find using task view pay groups in your Workday tenant. But I think it's a good starting point, foundationally. It'll output the data for you. And a lot of times in just in a table format, just like this. I was giving you some configuration information around the data. It also breaks it up by Canada and the US and international. What's neat, it shows you the international. The payroll agent right now, I believe, is for every country that payroll is available for. So the US, Canada, Australia, UK, and France. So we get to see all of those right now. Then we can go from here and we can ask which US paid most recent payroll processed. Now this is the data tenant. So the data is one, fictional, but two, old. So it might be a long time ago. So it's like we have a US biweekly that's processed. We can ask, are there any, is there anything every three, USA payroll? And you can ask it broad questions like that, which I think is valuable for if maybe you're new to payroll, you're new to Workday, or you're new to the company, and you don't know what the norms are yet. This is a great tool for identifying what is normal and what is not. You can ask it vague requests, and it can make that vague request a very full and empirical result.
I also think to that point, again, to kind of zoom out, I think part of this notion of context in analysis is important because, yes, can you get to the information somehow in Workday, whether it's running a report or digging around? Of course, right? This isn't creating information for you per se, but it is adding contextual analysis, which is really important. And to Hank's point, you can either use this as a starting point, right? If you're unfamiliar or maybe new to the role or new to Workday, or if you're a seasoned pro and have been doing this for years, use this as a validation point, right? There's no harm in double checking your work here. But the idea is that it's giving you, again, that analytical context that is not going to come from a report per se. So it's an important distinction, and a nuanced distinction, but important. Go ahead, Hank.
Yeah, it's neat. So the agent isn't designed to replace your payroll processing or your payroll process in general. It's there to be supplemental to your process. One big use case that I see is really just querying unique data sets. If maybe you have a scenario where you need to know the last 5 terminated employees that were in California, sure, you can create a custom report and you can go and filter an existing report and you can go get that data manually. But creating custom reports can be a lengthy process, especially if you're not seasoned in Workday. Whereas here, you can ask it that information and it'll tell you in a very easy to understand way that you can then use and say yourself a report need a lot of time. So we could look at terminated workers in California. So I don't know if this tenant actually has workers in California. So I guess we're about to find out. Another thing I like about this agent, as a practical use case, is even if it can't do so big, it will tell you how to do so. So it says wasn't able to filter by state directly using the search tool. I guess it doesn't. CA wasn't a good answer, so it's just looking for a little bit more. So we can do, I don't know, child friendly, and then it can build off of that. So it'll help you get to what you need in their conversation more. All right. So another use case here is the data extraction. So if I search for this here by asking the agent for a table of a general consensus of all employees reading their status, their role, their wages, operations, etc., for a specified pay group, it can return that information for us in a table format so that you do not have to go through and create a custom report to find this. And then it'll take just a second, but much faster than creating report volumes.
Does this also create the table or the report in the notification?
It does not. So it just creates this table here, but you're able to copy it out as needed.
I thought you could create a report.
You can use the agent to help you build reports, especially outside of just the payroll agent. There's the deployment agent, which is a great resource for getting things closer to that around percolating me.
Okay.
So here's our output for that. So we had this with census report that is showing us just a high level of our workers, who they are, on terminated, exempt, non-exempt, which in the data science area, I mean, especially if you're looking for various scenarios where that's so that's a good use case. We're playing more good use cases as well. We could sit here. I don't know if we have time for it today, Rin, or how many you want to go chat.
Well, let's say that I think we've shown them, we've shown them how to set up a store. We've shown them how to deploy the payroll agent. We've sort of scratched the surface on some use cases, but the idea here, I think, is twofold. One, get folks comfortable with the idea of turning this on, playing with the capabilities, but also reach out to us. We want to help you navigate not only this agent, but all of the agents within Workday. And then how do these integrate with your broader enterprise AI strategy and agentic strategy, right? So thank you, Hank, for showing us that. I'm going to show a couple more quick things. If you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen. So real quick, flex credits. We've mentioned it several times. If you're unaware, Workday is they rolled out this flex credits thing last year. If you go to the Workday website under AI, you'll see a pricing tab. If you scroll down to where is it? One of the FAQs, how are flex credits calculated? Here's a link to the flex credit rate card. So if you click on this link, this is the rate card. This is sort of the pricing guide for agents. And I think now that we've shown you all of the different agents and what skills they have, this might make a little bit more sense. So you'll see here the flex credit used. That's basically the call it Workday monopoly money that they're charging. And we talked about all the different agents: BP optimized, there's payroll, planning, recruiting. So they all have a different rate, and actually each one that has multiple skills, sometimes each skill will have a different rate. So a good example is the payroll agent, which we just walked you through. That has different skills. So Hank mentioned the different ways you can use it, different skills you can turn on and off. But you'll notice that these actually have different rate cards for each skill. So something to be mindful of. You'll notice that some of the rates are actually a pretty big swing. So BP optimized, for example, every BP it analyzes is 1 credit. However, when you get into like talent and recruiting and fetch, which is a highly valuable action, you're going to go upwards of like 750 credits. Similar with contract negotiation is 500 credits. Now these are taking a lot of energy, and they're basically supplementing a lot of energy from somebody. It's like a human who would be reviewing contracts, or a human who would be reviewing, hundreds and hundreds of resumes, right? Things like that. So the credit is proportionate to really the time value, I think, that this activity has. So this is something to consider when you are rolling out your agents. Hopefully you can kind of see how the math works with the ROI and the usage. So what we do for clients is a pretty simple spreadsheet that we've developed, which goes through each agent, it goes through each skill, and it helps you model, payroll agent. How many people do you have that you think will use this? Which skills do you think they'll use? How many times a week, et cetera? And we can help you map that out and forecast. And that will give you a sense. I think I'm going to use, I don't know, 10,000 payroll agent credits this year. Okay, great. We understand that. But it also helps you calculate the ROI because if your team is spending, I don't know, 20 minutes every time they want to research something, but they're able to plug that into the payroll agent, it spits back the answer in 10 seconds, right? You've now saved 20 minutes of an FTE's time, which they're able to go do something else, maybe more strategic or valuable. So, and that maybe that costs 5 credits. So what effectively cost you 50 cents may have saved you $30, right? That's where the ROI calculation comes into play. So again, we help clients map that out, not only for planning and forecasting of consumption, but also calculating ROI, which of course you want to continue to monitor and maintain and optimize throughout the rollout. So you're forecasting the ROI, but you want to sort of check in periodically, maybe quarterly, to see if you're starting to realize the returns there. Okay, Hank, this was a ton of information that we covered. We're probably way over the time of recommended podcast length. Is there anything else that you recommend we give the viewers here?
Man, no, I think that if you can set that up and follow along, definitely get in there with your hands dirty, and then come talk to us. I think there's a lot of room for you in there, and the agents are really playful, so it's important to be on the right side of that curve.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. I would argue reach out to us if regardless, right? We're happy to walk you through this like Hank did. Hank's becoming a bit of an expert here, but reach out if you have questions or you want to just chat more about this. We're happy to discuss. So with that, we'll sign off. Thank you for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to our LinkedIn page for additional updates, and reach out to Okorio and Hank or myself directly if you want to learn more. And we look forward to hearing more from everybody. Thank you. Take care.
Um,